Hi everybody, this is Lara at Elliott Wave Gold with an update for you with a few cryptocurrencies. I'll start with Bitcoin, then I'll have a quick look at Ethereum, XRP, Dash, Monero, DGB, and a new one today, NEO. But there's been some big movements down, and so the question I want to focus on today, so that this video is not too long, is there a low in for these currencies? Is this a good for me because I'm looking at buying some more possibly? Is it another good buying opportunity, or should I hold off for a little while? So that's the question I'm looking at today. I'm going to do Elliott wave analysis, and it's supported by classic technical analysis. So I'm a chartered market technician. I have been a CMT since 2014. I have now over 13 years of daily experience analysing markets, usually the S&P 500 and gold, but I also analyse currencies, cryptocurrencies, and a few other commodities from time to time, and I've been doing this on a daily basis for a very long time now. Quick look at Bitcoin, monthly chart, the trend is up, and my Elliott wave count has wave 1 over here, wave 2 over here, wave 3 beginning here. These targets are highly provisional, I have to keep saying it, and as I get more data I will keep recalculating them and with my best attempt to hone in on as good a target as I can as cycle wave 3 comes to an end. So the trend for Bitcoin for the larger level remains up. At the weekly chart level, the question is, I'm now labeling this primary wave 4, this pullback, and the question I want to ask today for Bitcoin, is this pullback over, or has it got a little bit further to go? So let's look at the daily chart for that. Here it is. I'm labeling it as a flat correction, an expanded flat, subdividing 3, 3, 5, and intermediate wave C looks incomplete with minor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think minor 5 has just a little bit more down to go. However, in the short term, I wouldn't be surprised if minor wave 4 moves a little bit higher, because I think it probably should be labelled like this: A, B, C. So it may be that C needs to move beyond the end of A, above 42,462.984, before minor wave 5 pulls price lower, and my target for this pullback to end about support is the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio of primary wave 3 at 29,658.799 or 29,659. So that's what I expect for Bitcoin. Let's flip over to some classic technical analysis for it, and I'll show you why. Here's that high. At the high we had double bearish divergence between price and RSI, so it's unsurprising we've got a pullback. It's pretty strong. Now at this low there is support, and I draw these horizontal support and resistance lines by looking left to the chart. So in this case I look at 5.5 years of data, and I look way left, and I draw horizontal lines where they will sit touching as many highs and lows as possible, and that's how you're going to identify support and resistance for the future. There is good support here, about 30,000. This low for Bitcoin here has ended on a volume spike. It's not always where the final low is found. If I look back through Bitcoin's price history, I do notice that at its lows you have a huge strong downward movement ending with a big volume spike pushing price lower, and then you have some consolidation, and then you have a weaker downward movement to make a new low below the big candlestick that made the volume spike, and then you'll be looking for bullish divergence between price and RSI. There isn't any. At this low there is no bullish divergence. RSI did reach oversold, so I would not be surprised to see Bitcoin making at least a slight new low, and that fits quite nicely with the Elliott wave count. So for the short term, resistance at 42,500, support about 30,000. On balance volume here has a new range. It looks like Bitcoin may be giving us a bullish signal. I'd want for this candlestick to complete and one more to make this signal clearer. But if it is a bullish signal, it's a really weak one, so I wouldn't give that much weight, because the trend line, the on balance volume, looks like it's breaking above, is short held, has a bit of a slope, and only 3 prior tests. ADX indicates that the downward trend here is now very extreme. That can be sustained for a little while for Bitcoin, but it does indicate that at least a reasonable bounce, if not a trend change back to the upside, is likely to come soon. We've been over RSI, stochastics also in neutral territory. ATR continuing to increase, now price moves lower, but for the last few sessions, these last 3 sessions, ATR is now declining. This looks like possibly a consolidation before we see new lows. So I don't think Bitcoin has made its final low yet. I think possibly one more low. I could be wrong, but that's my conclusion today based on a balance of probability. The moving average situation still remains bullish. The 200-day moving average is still positively sloped. The short and mid-term averages are negatively sloped, but they remain above the long, and price is below all 3 today. Okay, let's move on to Ethereum. We've got quite a lot to get through again in this video. At the daily chart level for Ethereum, my question is the same. Is the low in for Ethereum? The Elliott wave structure says it could be. The Elliott wave structure looks like it could be a complete zigzag, A, B, extended C wave. I am not concerned that A and B are not equal. That's okay. They don't have to be. It's just a most common relationship between them. Sometimes one or the other, A or C, can be extended. But we could also relabel intermediate 4 as a double zigzag. Let's do that, because that actually would have better proportion. No, not the emotive wave. Pull this back up here. First zigzag in the double, minor W. Second zigzag in the double, minor Y. They're not that close to equality. Y is longer than W, but it's not huge. So that actually looks like that's got better proportion. I think I'd rather label it like that. Either way, the point is we could see a complete Elliott wave corrective structure at this low for Ethereum. Let's take a look at classic analysis for Ethereum. Let's make that a little bit bigger for you. Okay, at this low here, I noticed a couple of really long bullish lower wicks. I calculated the length of this wick to the real body of this candlestick carefully, and it's not twice the length, so this is not a hammer candlestick pattern. But we do still have these long lower wicks, which are bullish. I like to pay attention to wicks, candlestick wicks. And then we have a huge bullish engulfing candlestick pattern, but it lacks support from volume. Oddly enough, for cryptocurrencies, if we see a lack of support from volume early in the stage of a new huge bullish trend, it's actually not that great a concern. They do tend to start out with some weakness and relatively slowly, and they don't always have candlestick patterns at lows, bullish candlestick patterns, so this is nice to see. So for this particular market, well, pretty much for most, if not all cryptocurrencies, my research shows that weakness in volume early on in a new trend isn't actually a concern. If you look back at Bitcoin's price history from its major lows within that huge rise up to the 2017 high, you look at those major lows and how price started off those lows, you will notice a little bit of weakness in volume seems to be apparent, and they all seem to do that. So I'm not too concerned. I would prefer to see support from volume, but I'm not going to use this lack of volume here to negate the significance of this strong bullish candlestick pattern for Ethereum. On balance, volume has no new range, so no signal here. ADX is declining after reaching very extreme for the last upward trend. It was above both DX lines and above 45, so that's very extreme. It's now declining. The negative DX line remains above the positive. That's actually okay. If ADX turns back up, it would again indicate a downward trend, but the trend would already be extreme because the ADX line remains above both DX lines. But if there is a new upward trend, then it's going to take a while for ADX to catch up with price. It's a lagging indicator here based on a 14-day average. It would continue to decline. We would want to see the positive DX line cross above the negative, and then after that see the ADX line increase. And because it's so far above the DX lines and there's a bit of a space here between them, That would take a while, and by the time it happened, it may be indicating a fresh new upward trend. This is a look of an inconclusive situation, a possible flux and change in a trend. RSI is in neutral territory. Plenty of room for price to fall again. We didn't see bullish divergence and it didn't reach oversold at the lows. So there is room for price to go lower. There's also room for a trend to begin upward again. Stochastics also neutral. ATR declining for the last 3 sessions. These 3 here. A little bit of a concern for bulls. It looks like this could be a little consolidation. But my end conclusion for Ethereum is I think this one may have found its low and it may be on its way up. Price doesn't move in straight lines. When price is in an upward trend, there are pullbacks and consolidations along the way, so that should be normal to be expected behavior. Moving on, XRP, which is not Ripple, that's the company, this is the currency. XRP. This is one I really like and purchased quite a lot of a while ago, partly because it was so cheap, but I just love the look of its chart. It just has so much potential. This one I think also might have formed a new low. Now I think because we had an overlap with this low and this high, I had to adjust my wave count, and I've moved all of this down 1 degree, and I'm seeing this huge pullback now as an intermediate degree second wave. Let's pop over to the weekly chart and put this in context. For XRP, here's the huge big fall in price down to 0.11509 cents, and here off this low now I have primary 1 and 2, and now overlapping that intermediate 1 and 2. And so if this Elliott wave count is right, the next wave up for XRP could be a third wave at intermediate degree, within a third wave at primary degree, within a third wave at cycle degree. That's enormously bullish. It's a very bullish wave count. Looking at the structure of this pullback, it fits very nicely as a double zigzag. W, X, Y. The structure could be complete. Let's take a look and see what we can see on a classic technical analysis chart for XRP now. And make that a little bit bigger for you. Oh, I haven't noted it on this chart, but I really should. This is a strong bullish engulfing candlestick pattern. Again, I checked the length of this wick to this real body. It's not twice the length of the real body, so this isn't a hammer, but it is a bullish long lower wick, and it's found support quite nicely at the 200-day moving average. The moving average situation still remains overall bullish. The short and the long are short and mid-term averages are above the long-term average. The mid and long remain positively sloped, and price remains above the long-term average. So overall that's a bullish look, just not full ball bullish. XRP had a nice triangle here. When I take the widest part of the triangle and I add that length to the breakout point, I get a target from the triangle at 0.233. That's well off below the chart. That target's not even nowhere near met. So it's possible, if that target's going to be met, that XRP hasn't finished its fall. This bullish candlestick pattern, though, says otherwise. It lacks support from volume, but again, I'm not overly concerned about that. I would prefer to see support from volume. That would give me more confidence in the bullish implication from the pattern, but if it lacks support from volume, it's not a deal breaker. I probably need to fix this trend line, but on balance volume may assist to halt. I needed to update this chart as well. I haven't updated this, I'm so sorry. I just really wanted to get this out for you today. I need to adjust this trend line. I think XRP for on balance volume may remain below resistance, and so if we extend this trend line out a bit longer, here's a bearish signal. It breaks below support, it tests resistance, it remains below resistance. If we extend the trend line out, that's a little bit bearish. Watch on balance volume. I will for the next few days for XRP. If it breaks above that trend line, that would be a reasonable bullish signal, but then that would also reduce the technical significance or weaken the trend line. I did not update this chart. I'm sorry, this text is wrong. I will update this chart for XRP, and I will post all of these charts underneath my video on the post for this for my website. So if you want to go and click the link below, the video in the video description box on the YouTube channel if you're watching this from YouTube. Click on the link to the post for this analysis and you will see all of my technical charts below that. And this will be updated. ADX is now increasing. The negative DX line is above the positive. ADX is indicating the XRP is in a downward trend. The trend is, let's see, 23.95. Yeah, the trend is just now extreme because the ADX line is now just above the negative DX line. The ADX line's at 23.95, the negative DX line at 23.79. When the ADX line rises above both DX lines, that indicates an extreme trend. When the ADX line reaches 45 or above, that also indicates an extreme trend, and if both of those conditions are met, as it was back here, that indicates a very extreme trend. In this case, it was upward because the positive DX line was above the negative. So that's one way to read ADX. Well, that's how you should be reading it. RSI in neutral territory. It didn't reach oversold at this low down here, so there's room for price to fall further. Stochastics in neutral territory, and ATR declining for the last 3 sessions, indicating possibly a consolidation within an ongoing fall in price. Now there certainly is potential for XRP to fall lower, and I would expect, I should probably also put a support line in here at 40 cents. That would also be a reasonable support line sitting across some lows back here. So that would be my next look for support. But the bullish candlestick pattern for XRP supports this bullish Elliott wave analysis. Intermediate 2 certainly could continue lower. It can't move beyond the start of intermediate 1 below 0.17483. It certainly could continue lower, but it looks like the structure has a pretty good fit if we're seeing it complete here. Okay, moving on. Dash. Weekly chart. Dash is in an upward trend overall off this important low back here. 8th of March 2020, week beginning. I've got Dash also in a third wave at intermediate, primary and cycle degree. This is again a very, very bullish wave count, and I'm viewing this as a good opportunity still. Let's take a look at the structure and answer the question. Could intermediate wave 2 be over? Yes, it could. We could see a complete zigzag. And again, let's relabel this as a double zigzag, as I think this actually might have better proportion. Double zigzags, particularly in a second wave position, are pretty common structures. Now, where would we put W? I'm not sure I like that as much, actually. And does it really have better proportion? Yeah, not really. Either way, both labeling fit. Both ways of labeling it fit. And here, I think I'd want to put A here and B probably an expanded flat. Yep. Okay, the structure could be complete. Thanks, Motive Wave. Let's pop over to classic technical analysis. So Dash, make this a bit bigger for you. Bullish long lower wicks. Bullish engulfing candlestick pattern, lacks support from volume. Again, not so much of a deal breaker, but I would rather see that. On balance, volume has no new range. I really did try and play with these trend lines. I could draw a trend line along here and have quite a downward sloping range, but it just wouldn't have a reasonable enough technical significance to really pay much attention to it. One of the things that gives a trend line technical significance, increase or lack of, is the slope of a trend line. A horizontal line has much more significance. The stronger the slope of your line, the lower the significance. So I don't like drawing lines that have too strong a slope on balance volume. The look at here looks like it could have found a low. ADX indicates a downward trend which is already extreme because it's above both DX lines. At the low, we didn't see bullish divergence between price and RSI. We did between price and stochastics. I need to put that on the chart as well. So that's a little bit of bullishness. I do have much more confidence in bullish or bearish divergence when we see it with RSI than when we see it with stochastics. So I give less weight to divergence between stochastics and price and more to divergence between RSI and price, but there is a little bullish divergence here between these lows with price and the corresponding points with stochastics, so that's a little bullish. ATR also declining for the last few sessions. For Dash, a slight concern, this could be just a consolidation within an ongoing downward trend. So there is room for this one to fall as well, but the strong bullish engulfing candlestick pattern does suggest it could have found its low here. How long that is going to be sustained, I cannot be confident in answering. There is room for another low, but it could also be more sustainable. I'm sorry, that's just not a clear answer, is it? But if it's not the low, it's coming soon. If that isn't the low, the next one probably will be, especially if you then see that bullish divergence. Moving right along, Monero. Again, I could see this as a complete structure. Not too keen on seeing this leading diagonal for intermediate A though. Let's look at this for the bigger picture. I've got this one here as primary wave 2 within cycle wave 3. So this one, a third wave at primary and cycle degrees, could be beginning for Monero. The structure could be complete. It's corrected to just over the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio, but for these cryptocurrencies with their extreme volatility, their pullbacks do tend to be, well, a bit more like market crashes quite often, to be fair, more in the 70, 80, 90% of value range of the value of the prior wave that they're correcting, that is. So that is by anyone's definition a crash. This isn't yet. It's only 0.618. It could continue lower, but that's my Elliott wave count. It could have a complete structure. And this brings me to one of the biggest problems with Elliott wave. It does have a tendency to call trend changes early, which is a really good reason why you need to supplement it with some classic technical analysis to temper that problem and also use alternate wave counts. Now, I don't have an alternate wave count for this, but I would probably see this as A, some kind of B, and C. If we do make a new low, then I'm going to relabel it. This is mostly for my own investing purposes. I have an alternate in my head. I'm sorry, that's not very useful for you, but that's how I do it. My invalidation point still remains at 26.7039. And we could see a B wave triangle unfolding sideways. So that would be my alternate idea for Monero. At the low here, we do have this, actually this is a nice morning doji star and a long bullish long lower wick. Here's a piercing pattern. It's closing pretty reasonably well into the real body of the prior candlestick. It's not the strongest bullish reversal pattern and it lacks support from volume. This candlestick here in this possible morning doji star also lacks support from volume, but it does close really well, almost, I think. Does it? I'd have to check those price points. I can't with this chart that I've opened here in preview, but if this close here is above this open here, that would be stronger for that cap pattern. But they lack support from volume again. Volume's now declining as price is essentially moving sideways. On balance, volume broke below support, giving us a bearish signal. It doesn't have a new range. I could draw a little support line, but extremely weak, because it's only got 2 anchor points. RSI is in neutral territory. There's plenty of room for price to continue falling. The RSI did reach oversold just at the low. There's no bullish divergence there though. Wouldn't be surprised if it makes another low and then we see bullish divergence between price and RSI. If we see that, I would have a lot of confidence in a low for Monero. I am hesitant to call it, but I think the probability is greater than 50% that Monero also may have a low. Maybe about 60%. But if it makes another low, I'd have more confidence in that one. If it does make another low, that should be the final one for this pullback. ADX is increasing. There's a downward trend, which is still extreme now. And stochastics in neutral territory. Moving right along. DigiB-USD. My monthly analysis, cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3, weekly. I'm seeing within cycle 3, I've got primary 1, primary 2, primary 3 with only intermediate 1 unfolding. I may need to relabel these subdivisions as this one continues, But so far, this is the wave count I'm going to go with. -4 may not move into -1 price territory below 0.28340. That's my short-term invalidation point. If that invalidation point is breached with downward movement, I would have to relabel this upward movement. But my overall bigger picture of seeing a third wave up at cycle degree unfolding would not change for DigiByte. Classic analysis for this one. At the highs here, we saw bearish divergence between price and RSI. We've got a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern here. This one does have support from, oh no, sorry. The bullish engulfing candlestick pattern, this is this one here, this volume bar, it does not support the bullish engulfing candlestick. I'm so sorry. You know what I'm trying to say. Volume doesn't support that bullish candlestick pattern. Again, not a deal breaker for these particular markets, but if we did see it, I'd have more confidence. A long lower wick here is also bullish, bouncing up off support about 5 cents. On balance, volume has a weak range. I'll watch that one for DigiByte. If we get a break above resistance, a bullish signal, a break below support, a bearish signal, but that'll be pretty weak because this line only has the minimum 2 required anchor points that you need to draw a line. So that's another aspect of trend lines, which increases or decreases the technical significance. How many tests do they have? This resistance line has multiple tests now, so it has reasonable technical significance, and the slope isn't too strong, and it's long held. So I'm going to watch that one carefully. ADX is indicating a downward trend, which is extreme because it's above both DX lines. It can reach very extreme though. It could get up to above 50 before the trend is so extreme that it should probably be reversed. And here, if you look at how ADX behaved with this upward trend, it reached above both DX lines and above 50, and then it started to decline as DigiByte moves sideways. We see an upward breakout here, and ADX finally catches up here, saying an upward trend and an upward trend, but up here it didn't reach extreme, but we get that bearish divergence, so it's unsurprising we've got a big pullback here. That's what these markets do. RSI did not reach oversold, and now it's in neutral territory. There is room for DigiByte to move lower. Stochastics in neutral territory, ATR declining for the last few sessions. Okay, let's move on. This one is NEO. I've not done a wave count for this before. I'm going to go through this with you now. Get volume out of there. And let's start with a monthly chart. Well, no, that's too long. Let's start with a weekly chart then. And we need to view these ones on higher time frames on a semi-log scale because the volatility is so extreme. Okay, let's pull some Elliott waves in here. Start out with cycle degree on this weekly chart. I'm going to start my wave count here. I'm going to label this 1, 2. Let's have a look at 1, because if we can get some Elliott waves looking really good in here, then I'll have more confidence going forward. And that is absolutely not where I want to put those. That's interesting. That structure of 5 doesn't look so good then, does it? Oh no, we could have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. Typical of commodities. Markets with high volatility tend to exhibit brief, shallow fourth waves and more deep and time-consuming second waves. So, for example, if I saw an impulse like this on gold, I have absolutely no problem considering it an impulse. I just know I need to go to lower time frames to see those little fourth waves, and they can be a lot quicker than the second wave counterpart corrections. So a lack of proportion for a market with extreme volatility like this between a second and a fourth wave within your Elliott wave count isn't a great problem. And the reason why is this: they tend to exhibit blow-off tops and selling climaxes. And when they do that, they have these swift, strong fifth waves. And it is the fifth wave which exhibits the blow-off top or the selling climax and is the strongest portion of movement. Let's bring in MACD. The fifth wave has stronger momentum than the third wave, absolutely typical. When you see those very strong fifth waves, it forces the fourth waves that come just before them to be more brief and shallow. It pulls them up in the direction of the larger trend, forcing that disproportion, so not a problem. I don't know why I've got these. Let's go down to a lower time frame, daily, for NEO, and I'm going to start to look at some subdivisions in here real quick. How good do its Elliott wave structures look? Let's have a look at this fifth wave. This is the lowest time frame that this data is going to give me, so let's see if we can see subdivisions that have a good fit in here. Oh, this first wave looks really good. That looks like a nice 5. Nope, not going to put the third wave there. I think it should be up here. Is it going to subdivide as an impulse? Oh, I don't like the look of that first wave. What's the low one here? 25.616, and is this below it? 25.31 it is. I think I have to put this here. No, I think I can manage to put this here. Oh, is this going to work? Oh, no. There's an overlap here. Quite an overlap. If I accept this though, now we're going to have a slightly truncated fifth wave, but no overlap there. But now this from here to here, I'm not trying to see that as a 5. I think that's the best solution, and now this all looks really good in the middle of the third wave. It's a really nice 5 wave look. No, not there. Here. This looks good. Okay, well this one appears to have reasonable impulses. Okay, so that this video is not too long, I'm going to stop there. Okay, now I'm going to look at the start. I'm not going to spend time worrying about the structure of cycle wave 2. I'm going to start looking at the structure of cycle wave 3. Let's get some labels in here. I wouldn't. Okay, the reason why I'm not going to put primary 3 here, even though there's no overlap, this could be primary 4, is the length of this 127.94, the length of this 21.711. I mean, it is many multiples, but it just doesn't look extreme enough for one of these markets. I mean, if that was the S&P or gold, I'd say that's extreme already, but for these markets, no. I think we're not going to have a problem seeing primary wave 1 as an impulse. And I think here intermediate 5 is going to look okay. Intermediate 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3. Yep, that's fine. Primary 2, not going to worry. Probably a double zigzag. Let's just chuck that in. I just am so aware that these videos just get so long, I'm sorry. Okay, intermediate 1. This length and depth of this pullback looks like it should be the same degree as this, and here's another way to check that. Let's throw a trend channel around this. Let's try Elliott's first technique. Here's another problem, typical of commodities and cryptocurrencies. They don't always fit very well into channels because they have a slower start, acceleration through the middle, explosion at the end, gives them a curved look. And curves just don't fit within parallel trend lines so good. So let's do what I like to call a best fit. We pull this. Okay, this contains all of intermediate wave 1. So clearly breached, closed, well below it, multiple candlesticks below it. That's a strong indication that this portion of the trend is over. The next trend in the opposite direction is underway. The question is the low in, or does it have one more low yet? I think I'm pretty happy with the look of that. And look at this nice curve to minor wave 3. Slow beginning, lots of overlapping in the beginning, starts to move stronger. I bet you'll start to see some increase in volume here. Another curve, a beautiful looking curve, and an explosion at the end with vertical price movement. And then we have the correction. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of this. It's messing up the chart. Let's have a look at the structure of intermediate 2, and then we'll look at some classic technical analysis for NEO. I will spend some time, probably quite considerable time after I've finished this video, going back over all of this price history for NEO, and I will do an absolutely thorough full Elliott wave count for you. Well, for me really, because I think I might buy some. I'm just kind of sharing what I'm doing with you here. Let's put, oh, I don't know. No, that's just not gonna fit. Too much overlapping in A. What about a double zigzag? That actually might fit really well. Such a common structure. Well, okay, now this will fit here for minor Y. If you put A here, B here, and now C is going to be quite a nice looking impulse. Yeah, that fits. I mean, the subdivisions fit. Not sure about this in the middle of minuet 1 though. But generally, that's actually okay. So it's possible it could be over. But again, now this is the problem with the problem. It's one of the drawbacks of Elliott wave. Once you can see a corrective structure, it's really tempting to call for a trend change. But it could continue lower because it's all to do with the degree of labelling. What if I move the degree of labelling and part of this down 1 degree, then intermediate 2's not over? Let's have a look at classic analysis for NEO. At the high, bearish long upper wicks, bearish divergence between price and RSI. Unsurprising, we get this pullback, bouncing up off support about 40, a good bullish engulfing candlestick pattern. Again, it lacks support from volume for all of them, but they all do have these nice bullish engulfing candlestick patterns. Now we see a morning doji star here, and then we go on up to a new high. Here's a strong bullish candlestick pattern, and here's a really important distinction about candlestick patterns. When I use candlestick patterns, I'm only ever going to refer to Steve Nisen's classic Japanese candlestick charting techniques. It's a classic for a reason, and I always like to go back to the original classics because I think that sometimes they're improved on, but for Nisen, that's where I like to go. And one of the points he makes in his book is candlestick patterns, in order for them to be a reversal pattern, there has to be something to reverse. And so if you're reading a candlestick pattern as a bullish candlestick pattern reversal, it must come in the context of a downward trend, not in the context, as this one does, of an upward trend, and not in the context of a sideways consolidation. Although, if the consolidation is wide-ranging and the candlestick pattern occurs at the extreme of support or resistance, then you may give it some weight. This candlestick pattern here comes in the context of an obvious downward trend. It is a strong bullish engulfing candlestick pattern. He also makes the point that for bullish candlestick patterns, they should have support from volume for confidence, but the price history of these particular markets, these cryptocurrencies, if you look back at their price history and you look at their major lows and have a look at volume around those major lows, they don't always start off with strong volume. So again, I would prefer to see it. It would give me a lot more confidence. The fact that we don't have it isn't a deal breaker. It just makes me a little bit more likely to consider we could see another low. On balance, volume for NEO is giving us a bullish signal. Here's a trend line that's got a few tests, a little bit of a slope, not too much, reasonably long held. It's breaking above resistance. This is a bullish signal for NEO. ADX just managed to reach extreme for the downward trend. It's declining now, no clear trend today for NEO. RSI is in neutral territory. There was possibly extremely weak bullish divergence here at lows. I need to go back to these dates and check the actual reading for RSI to determine that. I haven't done it because even if there is bullish divergence here, it's so weak, I wouldn't really give it any weight. RSI didn't reach oversold at the low. There is further room for price to fall for this one again. There is bullish divergence though, slightly clearer between price and stochastics at the lows. I'd never give this as much weight as I do when the same situation appears with RSI, but a little bit of an indication here. It's possible NEO's found a low. ATR declining now as price moves higher. That is a little bit concerning for the bullish case. Again, I'm so sorry, but my conclusion pretty much for all of these is I'm going to say for a couple of them, I think we've got another low, and for a few others, I think we could have the low in, but if we don't, one more low. So I'll keep an eye on these, and I'll be updating you again next week. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like these videos and you're watching on the YouTube channel, please subscribe and thumbs up, and let me know any other currencies you want me to have a look at for you that may be good buys, although to be fair, I've got a really long list that's going to take me quite a while to work through. For my membership, because I'm a chartered market technician, I have ethics guidelines that I must adhere to. And so if I make my own purchase or sell of any investment vehicle at all, I need to let my membership know before I do so myself. And the way I do that is I do that in the comments below the appropriate or most recent post for all of my members. So for my members, if I buy any more cryptocurrencies, you should be checking those comments every day because I'm providing extra charts and commentary, and we've got a community going on there. So, and you'll also get, you'll also get my information about what I'm buying or selling for you. That's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching.